while we have him trapped here, I want to ask Judge Michael Scopolitis about a topic I call 3 uncommonly effective judicial decisions. And I will tell you that I have not warned Judge Scopolitis what these are, what I'm talking about here, but I'd like his comments about them. But these are 3 decisions that I've seen judges make, and they've had a profound effect on the families. The first one, and I just happened to talk to a mutual acquaintance of ours, Judge Terry Crone, who used to be circuit court judge in South Bend and now is on the Court of Appeals in Indianapolis, who confirms that I have the details correct about that. He had a couple of our old warriors in his court, Will Mayette and Tom Laughlin, who are attorneys, and they were representing an older couple getting divorced that was fighting over, do you know this story about
Go ahead.
Every Elvis painting, every jelly jar, and they were having hearing after hearing until finally Judge Crone had a half-day hearing. They set aside, okay, here's the list of property that the mother is to put out, or the wife was to put out on the front porch. Dad was going to come at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, pick those up, and then leave. And then we were going to be done. Well, Monday morning, there are cross motions to hold each other in contempt because Dad said she didn't have the right stuff out there. Mom said, oh, I not only have the right stuff out there, he came in the house and took other stuff. So he had another half-day hearing, at the end of which he found both parents in contempt and appointed the attorneys, Will Mayette and Tom Laughlin, special masters of the court, to go inventory the homes of these parents from attic to basement to account for every item of personal property in those houses, and said these people would remain in custody until the report was received from those special masters. And Judge Crone walked off the bench, told his secretary, Tom Laughlin and Will Mayette are going to come by in about 20 minutes with an agreement. And they did, but that was the end of the litigation. What do you think?
I love it. That's a great decision. I've heard about it too. What it really forced the parties to do was back off on their war with one another, and they finally were faced with the prospect of its logical end.
Okay.
And realizing what that end was, they decided, wait a minute, none of this is worth that. So they decided to stop their war with one another and compromise and settle, which is what they should have done probably months earlier.
Use maturity instead of court.
Exactly.
All right,
and with the help of their lawyers, they might have succeeded in doing that, except the lawyers probably just let them run free rein.
Okay.
And use the court to further their war with one another.
All right. Very good. Case number 2 actually was one of mine. A couple came in to do mediation regarding their children and some property is what I understood. I had them do the work on the Up to Parents website. We went over it. They said, wow, this really helped. We're getting along so much better. We're making decisions together. And I said, is there any reason then that we need to continue the meeting? Yes, can you help us with this? And they put down this huge judicial decision regarding the allocation of their property, and it was a whole divorce decree. And I realized then they'd been to trial. And I said, oh, okay, well, I thought maybe they wanted to horse trade some property, which would be thoroughly acceptable. And the dad said, well, it's not quite as simple as that. Why is it not that simple? Well, you see items, and he said like 11 through 17 listed here, 20 through 48, 60 through 105. Yeah, we don't own any of those things. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the way our lawyers put it, they said the judge took it under advisement, meaning after the trial, the judge left with the notes, took it back to the judge's chambers. I don't want to say his or hers because I don't want to identify the judge. And it wasn't Judge Scopolitis. And got those notes from that trial mixed up with notes from another one. And so I said to him, you're kidding me. He said, no. We spent $30,000 to find out how a judge would divide property we don't have. So he said, but they said, but you know, this was good because it made us stop and realize we should have decided these things on our own long ago. And now we're making decisions together, and we know that's not a terribly good place to go.
Normally, I would say any decision that I have to make in a family law case is a bad one because I'm making it and they're not. This gives a whole new meaning to that. This is another good reason. If you leave it up to a judge, he may totally screw it up, like as this judge did. I'm glad to hear it wasn't me. But I could see how it could happen. And yeah, finally they saw the light. Unfortunately, they saw the light a year too late, probably.
Well, and yet they're working together now. I mean, they're
Right.
working together.
Right.
They're no. All right, case number 3, Jim Nafe. You know, Jim Nafe has been a lawyer in South Bend, and he came up to me one day and said, "Charlie, I settled a divorce case yesterday. You'd be proud of me." And I said, "I'm proud, Jim." He said, "Do you want to know how I did it?" Sure. So, well, Dick Rogers and I had it, and it was in Judge Biddlecombe's court, and the trial was set for 10, and we waited, and it was 10:30, and it was 11, so we started talking, and at 11:30 we had it all worked out. And I said, "Well, that's good, Jim, but are you saying that if Judge Biddlecombe had showed up, maybe he was caught in some other hearing or traffic or something, but if Judge Biddlecombe had showed up, you'd still be in trial now?" So, "Oh, yeah, we would be." So here's another example of where the judge doesn't make a decision, and it was better than if he'd done it the traditional way, gotten on the bench and let the cannon fire
Right.
fly.
Good move on Judge Biddlecombe's part.
So here's my question, Judge. In all three of these cases, the first case, Judge Crone wasn't being intentionally crazy. The second one, there was a judge who inadvertently mixed up notes. And the third one, the judge just didn't get on the bench that day, or at least in this case. And yet all the couples were better off than if they had continued the litigation, if it had gone the more traditional way. What can we make of this?
Nothing good really ever comes of coming to court with a family law issue. That's 3 examples of things working out in the end well, but after expending a lot of emotional energy, money, and time.
And I would want to add that the reason that judges' decisions are sometimes destructive is not the fault of the judges. The way that you put it is pretty good. It's a bad decision because you're making it and trying to force people into things, and they can always come back with the next issue because nobody likes to be pushed around. And it's simply true that people win when they get out of this system. Barring domestic violence or something that requires people to be in court, people win by getting out of this system, not by prevailing in a fight in it.
I agree. Any decision a couple makes on their own is going to be better than any decision a judge forces on them.